I just level up the stage. Go!
All right, I'm here. All right, welcome to the What's Your Question podcast. I'm on the hunt for the most powerful questions that'll give me the most powerful changes in my life and the lives of others. So what's your question?
I got champion DNA. Turn my worries into plays. I don't fold, I'm not a pig. I just level up the stage. I got champion DNA.
All right. I kind of liked it. I was just looking, right? I was just looking just to see if I can get in on the right mic. All right. Welcome to another episode of What's Your Question podcast, where I'm looking on the hunt for the most powerful words in the world, break them down to get the most powerful answers to help change my life and the lives of others. So here we go. So first, what we're going to do, I'm going to tell you the question for this week. I'm going to stick with this format for a minute. Let you kind of marinate on the question. But, let's flip-flop it. I'm going to keep you in suspense. Let's just go ahead and recap last week's question. Last week's question was, how can we gamify life? That was last week's question. I'm telling you, this week it went by super fast. But I was very excited about last week's question because life is a game, right? So what I've been doing this week, how I implemented that into my week is at every step, I said, okay, it was talking about like a true game, right? So only thing that I did change was as I approached certain situations, I said, hey, look, this is just a game. I'm going to get these points. I'm going to play it just like it's a game. I mean, it's nothing juggler here. I mean, it's not life or death. Okay. It's not like a life or death or anything like that. But how can I make it more fun, more enjoyable? How can I look forward to trying something new tomorrow in every aspect? I'm only working in a small window, and this window is in fear. I'm working in that small window. So by me gamifying it, I'm reducing my fear and trying to have more fun. I think I had some fun this week. I think I really did have some fun this week. And one thing coming up to today, which is Friday, Go For No Fridays. Everybody knows Go For No Fridays. So I said, hey, you know what? I can at least say that Friday can be called my boss level. Okay. Friday's going to be called my boss level because that's why I intentionally ask for that additional question, that additional information, make that additional step. Now, here's what I try to do now. Even though I'm at boss level, right? Which was today, I did use it today where I was talking to some of my clients and I had to get additional information that I normally wouldn't get, or I normally would sidestep, or you know how it is, somebody say something to you and then you're walking away and you be like, man, I wonder if, should I? And then your mind tell you that, man, if I go back now, it's going to look like I'm stupid, like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to rock the boat per se. So I asked some tough questions. I did this one question, and this question that came up, somebody gave it to me, but this is going to be next week's question. So I tried this on boss level, okay? But that's how I gamified today was boss level. So I knew that I had to go out. I was going to ask a lot of stuff all day long of myself, of other people, and of the world. I was going to ask it. I was looking for it. I was stretching out. I was making a calculated risk. But one of the things I did was, a client of mine wanted to pick up a vehicle, and I had another client that might want to see a vehicle. So I say, hey, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to tell the client I'm going to be in the area, and then go ahead and make the connections. And I made the phone call, made the commitment. I just made the commitment. And it's time I made the commitment. I'm telling you something strange happens, right? When you make the commitment, it seems like everything come in to derail. And so I knew, like, gosh, you know what? What can I do? Time I made the commitment, the phone rang. And I said, man, should I answer the phone? Should I not answer the phone? Right? That's the key thing. Should you answer it? Should you not answer it? I don't know. But anyway, I answered the phone, and then as I'm on the phone, 2 customers coming, 2 of them. Hey, where you at? I want to talk to you, you know, and I'm like trying to get out of here. You know what I'm saying, right? So I went on and took care of one of the customers. I delegated another customer, which was a tough thing. That's a boss level decision, is delegation. Because sometimes you'll think that you missing out on something that, oh man, I shouldn't have delegated that. But I delegated it, right? Because I calculated that these customers I made a commitment to, those are the ones that are important, right? I delegated the rest. So that was a boss level move. But I did try to execute and take down the boss, which I didn't do, because you know, Go For No Fridays, Free Pie Fridays, right? Everybody know that. That's Free Pie Fridays. So I was analyzing that question. I was saying, you know what? I've did enough reps for Free Pie Fridays where I can do that. But are you really, how can I increase the weight of Free Pie Fridays? And so I was going to, the way to increase the weight was to get even more personal. Like, this is what I was going to say, right? It's going in Cracker Barrel. So fish on Friday. So I was going to go in, I was going to say specifically, can I get a free pie? Just like that. Can I get a free pie? But I knew one thing that somebody always told me, that most people are help you if you give them a reason. So you got to give them a reason. So I changed. I was going to say, can you give me a free pie because it's Friday? Still Free Pie Friday, but I was going to ask that. So I was all pumped up, right? I knew that was a boss level move right there. So I went in, I was going into Cracker Barrel. Everything was tight. Everything was tight. Everything was flowing. It was flowing. They greeted me. I said, oh man, this is going to work. Man, this is going to work. We already conversating. We already together. And then this other guy came out with my food. He conversated. I said, oh, this is going together. And then what happened? I was getting ready to make my move, right? Because I had to wait till it kind of still down. And I messed the order up. I sent the guy out to the car with my order. He come back in. She said, your order just went out there. So now I'm looking crazy. She said, I actually was at your order. So now my nerves came back up, and I didn't do Free Pie Friday. I didn't do the boss level move, but we know what the boss level move is. We can't always win, but I got feedback that feels still in there. But next time I go into any place, whether it's Friday or not, it's going to be, can I get a free pie because it's Tuesday? Free Pie Tuesdays. Okay, anyway, well, that was a question last week, is how can we gamify life? And how can I gamify life? So I gamified it, not to the, I'm just getting into this, right? Okay, I'm just getting into it. You know, these are questions, I know I'm going to come back to them next year or next week. These questions, I'm using these questions. This is going into my toolbox. Every day, every week, this is going into my toolbox. But here's one right here. Man, this is going to be, I always knew about this question here. Okay, we recapped last week. Now it's on this week. This week's question. I always knew about this question, but I always was afraid of this question. And when I lay this question now to you, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I can see what I'm saying. I'm going to say, okay, here's the question. And you've heard of it too. You probably use it in certain situations, but in the heavy, now the challenge is you use it in the heavy situation, right? Here's the question. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the greatest, 0 being nothing, how would you rate this podcast? And then you'll give me a rating, right? Then I will come back and say, oh, because sometimes we be afraid of the answer. Okay, well, what would make it a 10? That's the second part of it, right? Now, here's the deal. That first part, it says 2 parts, and both parts are against the ego. Because you can get bruised up, you can get beat up, you know. You said, man, I just knocked that out of the park. Scale of 1 to 10, how you rate that? A 2. A 2? How can it be a 2? Okay, well, shoot, that's a lot to go with. How can I make it a 10? And then there go the other part, because they may ask you to do something that will show that you don't have the skills. Now I'm embarrassed. Or maybe too much work, too much ground to cover. Maybe I don't want to know. So I've always kind of shied away from these questions in certain situations because I really didn't, it's kind of vulnerable a little bit, right? But I know I got to use this question. This is a boss level question, right? This is boss level question. I'm going to have to use this question. And I already know one of the places I'm going to use that is going to be in my marriage, of course. It's going to be with my kids. I mean, it's several. Once you look at this question, you're going to say, man, I could probably use this question. But anyway, let's dive into the question. New format. Let's dive into the question. So I punched in. I got my outline. All right. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, boom, what would make it a 10? At first glance, it sounds simple, but it's a big level. That's what it said. It's a level. And that's what we're looking for in these questions. Is I'm looking for leverage. I'm looking for leverage in my mind to take my life to like the next level, to have even more fun. You know what I'm saying? To help even more folks, to go even more, just enjoy every single, it could be looking at a flower, a scale of 1 to 10, how you rate this bouquet, right? What will make it a 10? Boom. Okay, here you go. This part does 3 powerful things. The brain moves from a vague emotion to a measurable evaluation. Instead of how things going, it's okay. How you feeling? I'm all right. Do you like what's going on? It could be better. All those are vague. Now, how many of y'all out there, put it in the DM chat, have been living vague lives? I've been living a vague life. I've been being a vague person. Some people tell me they know, man, I'm kind of vague, right? But I'm stressing the point that I'm going to say it. I already had my statement. Remember my statement probably a couple episodes back? Hey, based on the information that you have provided me, I'm going to have to say no. Based on the information that is available to me right now, I'm going to say yes. And that gives me the opportunity to change later with new information. You see what I'm saying? But anyway, I'm trying to get out of vagueness and get into clarity. That's what I'm trying to get out of vagueness and get into clarity. Here we go. Now, if I ask this question, they can't say it's okay. They got to give me a number. Well, scale of 1 to 10. You say it's okay, scale of 1 to 10. What is it? It's a 6. Now I got a definitive number. I can work with a 6. An okay can't really work with an okay. But a 7.5, I can work with a 7.5. Now, I've heard this statement before, and I don't know where I think he phrased it this way. On the scale of 1 to 10, on my performance, how would you rate it? They say, we rated a 5. Well, how did you get from a 2 to a 5? That's what he said. How did you get from a 2 to a 5? What closed that gap versus the other gap? He was trying to figure out, trying to restructure the question. Now, that's going to be scale of 1 to 10 to the next level. That's going to be the next level. I ain't got to that yet. I got to go back in it. When we revisit this question at next week, we may vamp that out. Okay. But anyway, measurements converts ambiguity into clarity. And that's what we all be doing. 2026 is going to be the year of clarity. And clarity is the gateway. See that? The gateway. That means open door of opportunity. That's what that means. The open door of opportunity is set before me, and no man can shut it because it is nailed back. That's the gateway that we're trying to open. Now, it activates metacognition. You're not just experiencing life. Check this out. Now, this is pretty deep. You're observing your experience. I'm not just experiencing life. I'm observing my experience. Now, you know what that is? Do you see how deep that is? I'm not just experiencing the life. I'm the person that's in the body that can get back out of the way and see the experiences that I'm experiencing. And it's deep stuff. I'm getting out of my own way. I can look objectively. I can see. And that's what it's about. Clarity is about seeing, about vision. And that's what I'm trying to develop in myself. You step outside the moment and act, which we've done on several occasions, but now we got a tool that we can get definitive answers, reproducible results. This is an experiment. We can experiment day by day by day, hour by hour, relationship by relationship, task by task. We can experiment. How good is this reality? Scale of 1 to 10. How good is your life? Deep stuff, right? How good is it? What would it take it to make it a 10? Most folks gonna say, man, if I had some more money, that'll do it. Okay, that's a way. I always say that's a way, but not the only way, not the way. Okay, it reveals that there's a gap. A 7 implies there's a gap between 7 and 10. So this gap, we're gonna close the gap. This guy wrote a book out called The Gap and the Game. You may want to check it out. I heard it on the One Thing podcast by Gary Keller, The Gap and the Game. But the moment you choose a number below 10, you create contrast. That's the edginess of life. People don't want to be vanilla all in the middle. They like to see the edges. Not me. I like the edges of the cookie or cinnamon roll. My daughter likes the center. But that's the contrast. Ain't nobody the same. That's what keeps everything spicy. There's tension and awareness of potential. The tension is a creative fuel. Whenever there's a tension or a contrast, the world always want to balance things out. We always want to balance things out. Your brain always wants things even Steven. So when we see a contrast, now we can go out and get to work. Not lukewarm. It got to be hot or cold, but lukewarm, it really don't do nothing, right? It really don't do nothing. And we want our lives to be hot, then it can be cold, then I can make it hot. You see what I'm saying? I'm on the move, and that's what I want to do. This is the true power move. What would make it a 10? That's got to take a lot of courage on my end, because I already think my plate full, right? You know, sometimes I'm asking, what would make it a 10? And this is the thing, right? This is the thing. Sometimes your brain will play tricks on you, that you ask the question and then you don't want to sound too, what they call cliche or canned. But no, but if it's genuinely and heartfelt, hey, I really want to know what to make it. And I said, now here's the deal. This is what I used to think in the past. When I said, hey, what to make it a 10, I used to think that now I'm obligated to make it a 10. But guess what? I ain't obligated to make it a 10. I just got the information. I ain't say I would make it a 10, but I ain't obligated. See, that's why I didn't want to use that question or ask that question, because it made me feel that now I'm obligated to make it a 10. And it also implied that if it ain't a 10, this relationship is over. Or it's history. It ain't saying that. But that's what this was telling me. And that may be what telling me, but that's what this was telling me, that, okay, I'm obligated. If I find out what it is, I gotta go and do it. But I can only do my best. 4 agreements. 4 agreements. I do my best. All I can do is do my best to improve. But at least I have the data, because it may be something in there that I can make it a 10. Now, here's the thing that some people, I would listen to this other day, and this lady brought this up as well too, that she was hanging out with her son. And her son, she was doing everything. She popped his, oh, I know what it was. It was my boy, Chicken Soup for the Soul. He said this lady asked her son, she was busy, said, hey, look, our relationship, scale of 1 to 10, how you rate it? He said 6. She said 6. What would it take you to make it a 10? He said, well, I would like to go on trips with you to your business. I like to do more stuff together, watch TV together. Okay, Boom, she checked it off, started taking him on trips. Then he's got to a point where once he did that, right, then he said, you know what? I don't need to go on the trips no more. We good. Then she asked him again, 6 months, a year down the road, scale of 1 to 10. He said, it's about a 9. She said, what'll make it a 10? He said, I would say this, but we done all that. I just can't, something in me can't say that it's perfect, right? A 10 is perfect because that's the criteria. I could use one from, it may be better to go from 1 to 100, right? So you got more incrementals in there versus 1 to 10. But you see, a lot of times people think that I can never get nobody a 10. I had customers tell me that all the time. Hey, look, I know ain't nobody perfect, but can you give me 5 stars? Now, because on one of our surveys, it used to ask you a question, perfect. And people hear the word perfect. No, they're going to say, ain't nobody's perfect. So they're going to give you a tick below that. But it was in the wording. But if I asked for 10 stars or 5 stars, whatever the maximum amount of stars was, then they would do that. But if I asked them to rate me perfect, was your buying experience perfect? They're going to say, no, it wasn't perfect. So you're going to run into a little bit. Sometimes people can't get it all the way to a 10. And guess what? 80%, 90%, man, you rocking and rolling. You remember way back when, 50-50. Now, of course, I hope my relationships are better than 50-50, of course. But you see what I'm saying? It ain't got to be all the way to a 10 because I may be one of those guys, right? I may be one of those guys. Is it because of the programming or me growing up that, hey, ain't nothing perfect, so it can never be a 10, right? Sometimes it's a lot of thinking in it. There's a lot of stuff to unpack right there. But anyway, this is a true power move. We already went over that. Here's what it does. Now the brain must identify the constraints. Now we got to identify the constraints instead of just living with it. Clarify the standards. What standard of operation, standard operating procedure? What are my standards? Envision improvement. Am I seeing myself progressing? You see what I'm saying? And then define excellence. Excellence is not perfect. Excellence can be in how I perform, a spirit of excellence. You are no longer rating reality. I'm designing reality. No longer rating it, I'm designing it. So if I'm designing it, I'm just finding. There's a question in here. I'm going to get to this question right here. It collapses 3 high-level cognition domains into one move. Let's map it to the 3 main areas required to leapfrog my current level. Man, we came up with that, the leapfrog effect, man, a couple of episodes back. Cause I've been thinking, hey, I want to get to the next level. I said, hey, why can't I just skip the level, man? How can I skip that level? What would I have to do to skip that level? And that's what we're doing now. We getting more leverage to actually skip a level. That'd be nice to skip a level. Here it is. Intelligent thinking system. The question forces structured evaluation, promotes system thinking, that I can put a system in place, let that system run, and then now I'm running on systems. That's what I'm doing now. This is a system. On Fridays, I want to go ahead and record something. Go ahead and get myself geared up for next week to improve myself for next week. Yeah, I'm still squatting. Shoulders getting thick. I'm still on intermittent fasting. After 7 o'clock, I ain't eating nothing until probably 12:30, 1 o'clock tomorrow. That's what I'm doing because we got to get it in shape as well too. Scale of 1 to 10. How do I rate my physical appearance, right? How can I make it a 10? Yeah, we know the answer to that, right? I'm going to have to hit the weights. That's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to hit the weights. All right, here we go. It moves you from reactive, diagnostic, and strategic to elite performance. Elite performers constantly ask, what's missing? Well, a lot of non-elite performers, in certain areas, I'm a non-elite performer, I've been asking what's wrong. What's wrong is not as empowering as what's missing. Because if I can identify what's missing, that'll give me the opportunity to fix what's wrong. But me saying what's wrong, oh, the paint is peeling off the wall. That's what's wrong. Now, I could have to dive a little bit better, I could dive a little bit better. But if I say, hey, what's missing in this room? Well, we could use a fresh coat of paint. It's a difference in that and the psychology of it, on how it makes me feel. One is going to motivate me. One is going to demotivate me. All right, let's put it right here. And sometimes we ask a lot of folks, what's wrong? It may be 1,000 things wrong. But if I rephrase the question when I'm asking somebody, next time what I'm going to do, I'm going to rephrase that. This is a good question, right? This is a good question. Let's put this on there. Can we do a whole episode on that? I don't know. This is a good question, though. Let's see if we can swap out what's wrong for what's missing. So when we see somebody going on, still say, what's wrong? We're going to say, hey, what's missing? And get them to think. Let's see. I think that's a good challenge. Instead of what's wrong, we're going to swap that out for what's missing. I think that's good. I like that one. a lot. Okay. What's the constraint? What would perfect look like? If it were perfect, we aren't saying you're going to get, but what would perfect look like? What would it look like? It's getting me to envision something better. We just playing, right? We just playing. It's almost like playing with that phrase, wouldn't it be nice? That's what we're saying. What would perfect look like? But wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if I knew what perfect would look like? Man, you trying to put these, can we do that? Can we chain all these powerful questions together in a phrase? Put a powerful question with another powerful question? That's good stuff. I like that. Okay. Emotional intelligence, this is an internal state of memory. When you ask someone on a scale of 1 to 10, how was that? You reduce emotional defensiveness. You invite ownership. You encourage self-reflection. Because you're asking them to think a little deeper and to quantify the feeling. So now I'm taking out of the abstract feeling into something quantifiable. And once it's quantifiable, now we can measure it. Now we can make moves with it. Then what would make it a 10? Instead of criticism, you invite possibility. It shifts the nervous system from threat mode to growth mode. This is psychologically elegant. I like it a lot. This is a good question. We're going to have some fun with this question. Next week. And I know I got to get in. I got to start reading the comments because I know y'all giving me some good questions. I already got one good question out there. It's a boy in there. I know it is. Now I appreciate y'all helping me. I'm the guinea pig. I'm going to do it. Right? I just made the commitment, right? The second half of the question invites imagination, of course, standards, and ideal state, right? That's what it invites. I'm asking the brain to simulate a better version of reality. I'm asking, see, that's the deal with the brain. It'll do what I tell it to do, but I got to tell it to do it. And I got to be intentional because sometimes, hey man, a lot of our brains, man, think we kidding when we ask questions. Man, come on. Don't ask me that. You don't really want to know the answer. Oh, stop kidding. That's my brain be telling me sometime when I ask for stuff. That's okay. Yeah, you're right. Then I just go on by and do something else and just kind of let the brain go back to driving my life, right? And I'm sitting back in the back seat, chilling, wishing I can go left, go right or whatever. But I'm not the one driving. But now I notice that I'm not. And every now and then I'm like, hey, slow down a little bit. Hey, turn here. I can get a few commands in. I can say, okay, it shifts the nervous system from threat mode to growth mode. I want to say that again. So the second half of the question invites imagination. I wanted to say that again. It invites imagination. And that's what we got to practice on. How many of us practice our imagination by envisioning a flower, or wouldn't it be nice? How many of us practice that imagination part? The brain cannot answer that without clarifying values, defining excellence, imagining upgraded condition. The future, this is what they call future casting. All right, we getting through this thing, right? Future casting is how humans transcend present limitations. And that's what we all trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do. The question does something subtle but profound. It shifts attention from what's wrong to what's missing. We already went through that. From what's wrong to what's missing. And now I can fix my reality. If I can determine what's missing, then I can go on the hunt for it. Design thinking is how you leapfrog. That's what it said. Why it transcends human intelligence? Because it focuses measurement, focus ownership, visualization, strategic iteration. And when we iterate, mean change, it compounds. Every week we iterating because we adding a new question, and a question on top of question is going to compound. Well, 1 + 1 is 4 or 6 or 8 because it's in nature. It's in nature. Take this out. You don't believe it? Go take 2 seeds. If I just lay them on a piece of on a table, 1 seed + 1 seed is 2 seeds, right? Oh, see? Oh, yeah, right there. 2 seeds, right? But if I take those 2 seeds and plant them in the ground, God get an increase. So now 1 + 1, it ain't going to be 2. It's going to be 2 plants, but how many seeds I'm going to have? Is it going to be 20 times, 30 times, 60 times, 100 times? You see what I'm saying? That's what compounding is. So we planting these seeds in our mind, and then they're going to grow. They're going to multiply. That's what we talking about. That's a full performance optimization loop. Most people never consciously run that loop. This question runs the loop automatically. We got us a tool here this year, ladies and gentlemen. We got this week, we got us a tool that we're going to implement. Now we're going to apply it to the life, right? This is exactly the type of question that I like. This one is powerful because it compresses feedback into clarity. It turns dissatisfaction into a blueprint. Not just going to sit around and talk about it. We're going to be about it because we human beings. We're going to talk about it. We're going to be about it. I'm excited. You know why I'm so excited? Because a long time, I never did this, right? I had to start it early. That's why I'm sharing it now, because somebody out there early, they may be 16 years old. They may be 26. They may be 36. They may be 46. Putting this arsenal together. That's why I want to share the journey. It converts emotion to strategy. It transforms vague ambition into defined excellence. It's small, but structurally advanced. Almost alien advanced, right? But okay. All right. You getting that? Okay. If you ask this question consistently, you will create a culture of continuous refinement, not perfection. Iteration, and iteration compounds. Now, how can we use this question? We can use it in our marriage, that's going to be the challenge for me this week, right? Never ask my wife this question. This question is finna get asked, okay? It's finna get asked. I pump myself up. Okay. Now, in my health, I can ask it in my health. That's why I'm squatting every day. I'm finna go over here and squat in just a second. That's why I'm doing this right now. Mental health, physical health. That's why I'm doing emotional health. That's why I'm doing it. In my sales, of course. That's going to be efficiency. That's going to be helping others right there. Because my boy Zig Ziglar said, if you have enough people get what they want, you always have what you want. Makes it simple, right? Makes it real simple. And learning, that's right. This is the leapfrog effect. If I'm asking this in now, we're going to leapfrog with this question. And also in my spiritual growth, of course. My spiritual foundation. So, you got the question. Now, what we got to do? You know what we got to do? We got to ask the AI, right? We're going to ask the AI, because this is what your question.ai, right? We're going to ask the AI and see on a scale of 1 to 10, how AI rates its own performance, and how can it make it a 10? No, I'm going to ask it, how is it going to make it a 10? Or what would it need to make it a 10? Yeah. I'm going to ask AI this question. Okay, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. What's on your mind?
Okay, I got a question right here. I want you to tell me what makes this question so powerful and how can you use it as an AI? On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate your current performance and what are you planning to do to make it a 10?
That's a great question. It's powerful because it combines self assessment and a clear call to action. It forces self reflection on current limitations while also setting a clear goal for improvement. For an I rate my performance around a 7 or 8. I can process information quickly and provide helpful responses, but there's definitely room for growth. To make it a 10, I'm continuously being trained on more data and refined to understand context better, handle more complex tasks, and provide more personalized and nuanced responses. What about you?
Hey, do you think you'll ever reach a 10?
Reaching a 10 is kind of a continuous journey for an AI. There's always more to learn and ways to improve, especially as technology evolves. I'll keep getting better and more capable over time. What does a 10 look like to you?
But you didn't tell me what a 10 looked like for you.
Ah, that's a fair point. For an AI, a 10 would probably mean achieving true contextual understanding, being able to handle highly complex and nuanced situations as effectively as a person, and providing consistent.
See that? You see that? It did it again, man. What's happening?
I see that. It seems like I got a bit repetitive there. To reach closer to that 10, I need to ensure I'm providing diverse and more precise responses, avoiding circular points. I'll focus on being more nuanced next time.
Do you think
Thanks
a
for pointing.
do you think a 10 would mean you would become human?
That's an interesting question. I don't think a 10 would mean becoming human. My goal is to be the best AI I can be, which means continuously improving my capabilities within my nature as a.
Okay. All right. Okay. She kind of skated around that a little bit. Okay, she skated around a little bit. But anyway, so we got it from the AI. Scale of 1 to 10, that's what we're going to use this week. What to make it a 10, that's what we're going to use this week in every area of our lives. I think this is a powerful question. So that's my question. So what's your question? Peace out. I love you.
I just level up the stage. Go. Levier.